So we will be together during the weekend. Honorable members of our nation, honorable members of the Parliament, the guarantors of our bright future, distinguished youth, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to greet you all with my deepest regards. And I do hope that this group meeting is auspicious for our party as well as our nation. At the outset, allow me to offer my sympathies to all those affected by the earthquake in Manisa yesterday evening. And also last week, some people were debating the political extension of FETÖ when our country was going through difficult times anyway, and they were opening up these debates about a possible new coup. And I attracted your attention to this sinister plan, and unfortunately I see that the same debate is ongoing. In this country, the issue of FETÖ dates back a long time. It has social, political and cultural roots, and I know that everyone would appreciate this. Just like before AK Party, during the AK Party governments, Turkey unfortunately experienced this process. On the screen, you will also see what has gone before us. And today, I'm going to be making use of these visuals during my presentation. This structure, just like many other civil society organizations, did not all of a sudden become a threat when they were operating within limits of law. The head of Bülent Ecevit was the head of the CHP and DSP, and everyone is aware of how he had good relations with this organization. When this organization surpassed the limits of education or charitable endeavors, and when it became evident that it was trying to usurp the government, then it found me and my government in front of it. In Turkey, everyone may have played a part in the flourishing of FETÖ, in the strengthening of FETÖ, but the very first person who announced FETÖ as a terrorist organization was myself, and also the first party to do that was AK Party. And very clearly allow me to say that, because I know these processes really well, FETÖ in this country had only one leader who they could not meet with and come to an agreement with, and that was the late Erdoğan. They hated the late Erdoğan, and they never got together with the late Erdoğan. But now, those who claim that they are sort of the representatives of his legacy are sadly walking together with members of FETÖ, and I don't think I should be naming names here. That would be a waste. Everyone and every day, on a daily basis, people are saying things about FETÖ, but actually for long years, powers of regency did not touch FETÖ, even in a small capacity. To the contrary, they tried to purge everyone whose wives wore the headscarf, who were followers of Allah and the Holy Book. And under the pretext of fight against reactionary forces, of course, we could not condone an anti-religious sentiment. During my tenure as the Prime Minister, I did not see one single FETÖ file at the high military summits. We always saw files about people who were true believers, because members of FETÖ are skillful in deceit, and on the outside they did not display any religious symbols, or they did not seemingly lead a religious lifestyle. And the FETÖ threat proliferated as a malignant tumor, but these efforts went unnoticed, and now they are blaming us, but actually they're trying to hide their own responsibility. For years, religious people were sort of attacked because of the way they dressed, because of the way they prayed, and after the FETÖ threat emerged and after the struggle started, all of a sudden these people became the biggest proponents of FETÖ, and actually this goes to show how they don't have a backbone. Democracy, human rights, rule of law, justice, all this discourse was used to alleviate the threat of FETÖ, and these people are as dangerous as FETÖ, especially for our nation. And these quarters for the PKK as well exhibited the same stance, and this goes to show that their mentality and their disrupted mentality is structural, not based on current state of affairs. And the reason why we are responding here is because we respect our nation, and we are never going to leave the ground to those who speak these lies to poison the atmosphere in our nation. Turkey is going through very difficult times in terms of anti-terrorism, in terms of economy, and we're not going to let those who are trying to distract our nation. We will explain this issue, and we will answer these questions, and we will reveal everyone for what they are. Dear friends, ladies and gentlemen, when we were defining FETÖ as a terrorist organization and initiating the struggle, we knew about the magnitude of the problem that was in front of us. What we could not fathom was the CHP all of a sudden supporting FETÖ, and similar circles supporting FETÖ all of a sudden overnight. From the very beginning, we had faith-related or disposition-related problems with this structure. But during our governments, we created an environment of rapprochement with people who do not think like us, and you know, I also talk to them, and I'm not going to deny this, but my master Erbakan, the late Erbakan, had no relations with them, like I said previously, and amongst the leaders there was only one person, and that was him. Demirel talked to him, Ecevit talked to him, Erdal İnönü likewise talked to him, and the current gentleman, they've all met these people. And they had really advanced ties with these people. When we were being beset by powers of regency, there was a shadow behind all of this. And the organization was trying to infiltrate the judiciary, the executive, and we realized this, and we started taking the necessary steps 10 years ago, back in 2010, and this is when the process started. At first, we had a very difficult time even explaining to those close to us what they were trying to do, but the National Intelligence Agency conspiracy actually revealed their true colors in politics, in bureaucracy, and also in civil society organizations. We started to purge FETÖ-affiliated people, and Actually, it dates a very long time, this organization, their infiltration into the state apparatus. But we are the very first, in 2010, it was myself and my party who actually initiated this struggle against FETÖ. When we took term, the seemingly most sensitive organizations like the judiciary, the military, the academia, their critical positions were actually held by this terrorist organization FETÖ, including CHP, Republican People's Party. Many quarters were engaged in a witch hunt against true Muslims under the pretext of fighting against reactionary forces, but they never targeted members of FETÖ, because those who prepared the files, who were they? They were the FETÖ cliques inside the armed forces or Turkish National Police, and FETÖ members inside the state apparatus, and you can now see these people for who they are. Now look at the screens, just like you see on the screen. You see how these people rubbed shoulders at what occasions, and the head of the terrorist organization and the nickname of the organization purposefully actually was used as a mask for concerted efforts against Muslims, and we now know that what the true intention was. Some people were trying to protect FETÖ. Now you see advisors affiliated with FETÖ siding with Mr. Kılıçdaroğlu, head of the Republican People's Party. But it's not just them. You also see advisors in other parties. This is an infiltration through and through. And to reveal the real, well, for long years they played a very successful game. We need to recognize that. From Kasım Gülek to Ecevit, many people took part in this play and fulfilled their obligations and acted as extras for FETÖ. And the leading role of the final act belongs to Kemal Kılıçdaroğlu. Let us be careful. At the night of 15th of July, FETÖ targeted myself, our bureaucrats, our MPs, and they pursued us all, but there was only one person who was protected by FETÖ that night, and that person is Kemal Kılıçdaroğlu. Now, at the Istanbul Atatürk Airport, we were confronted with tanks, whereas Mr. Kılıçdaroğlu did not experience any difficulties. Let's now watch his video.
Milletimizi illerimizin meydanlarına davet ediyorum. Havalimanlarına davet ediyorum ve milletçe meydanlarda, havalimanında toplanalım. Tankların arasında VIP nizamiyesinde,
it was like a VIP treatment amongst all the tanks, Mr. Kılıçdaroğlu. Nothing more, nothing less. And of course, there's one more thing that's interesting here. If I had known, I would have waited, he says. Everyone was in the know. Tens of thousands of people were at the airport, but Mr. Kılıçdaroğlu, despite the fact that he had an ear, did not hear what was going on. And he came to Bakırköy, he went to the home of the mayor, and he watched everything unfold on TV, sipping his cup of coffee. Mr. Kılıçdaroğlu, we confronted the tanks, we confronted the F-16 jets, we confronted the helicopters. Together with my nation, we were at the airport, but you were in Bakırköy and you were sipping your coffee at the home of your mayor. I was personally targeted by helicopters, aircraft, tanks and special squads from Marmaris all the way to the Atatürk airport. I was pursued, but why was Mr. Kılıçdaroğlu treated differently? And one wonders whether this person hides $1 banknotes in his home or in the corners of his wallet. And my aides and my guards became veterans after that night. Mr. Kemal, are you aware of all of this? So many years have passed, and people were seized who were engaged in this operation, and those SAT commandos were captured, but some actually fled the country and went to Greece. And some people also advised me to go to elsewhere, but I said, I was born on this country and I will die in this country. If there had been a delay of 15 to 20 minutes, then these people were going to shoot us there and then. But we, thanks to that 15-minute difference, we were able to embark on the helicopter. We went to Dalaman, and from Dalaman we were able to reach Istanbul. This was what went on. So, Mr. Kılıçdaroğlu, you are still trying to deceive people. He's talking about a controlled coup. Yes, it was controlled, but you controlled it, but you failed. But you failed in the end. Now let me ask you from here, if the 15th of July coup had been successful, how would Mr. Kılıçdaroğlu, under what title would he speak to the nation the next day? Now he is trying to undermine this coup attempt, saying that it was an orchestrated effort. He organized justice marches for that, and he is surrounded by FETÖ-affiliated people. Such a politician, can we believe that such a person has no affiliations with this organization? Kılıçdaroğlu's relations with FETÖ actually became much more evident after 17th and 25th of December. After 15th of July, everything became as clear as day. And now he is defending this organization, and it's not ethical, and it cannot be explained even with opportunism. This is nothing short of fulfilling the role of kamikaze that was given to him by the organization. This person is trying to defend the interests of the organization, and his political standing is nothing but a big lie. And that's to be expected, because just like many socialists or nationalists or liberals or Kemalists, And some people coming from certain Islamist schools of thought, actually we have seen that they were FETÖ affiliates. And we harbor the same concerns, the same worries for Kemal Kılıçdaroğlu. Dear friends, even after we initiated this process against FETÖ, even after we instructed our organizations to target this organization, we had a difficult time coming up with an organizational structure for this organization, and they initiated such a system that you can only go back a couple of steps, and the ringleader is not in Turkey, the ringleader is outside Turkey, and then you lose track. You can't go any further down or further up the organizational chart. It is evident that such a complex structure did not come into existence on its own, and we are quite astounded by the fact that this organization also infiltrated the Republican People's Party, just like they infiltrated many other organizations around the world. The state kept an eye on FETÖ, but they did not look enough at the head office or headquarters of CHP. Another heinous orchestration is actually this allegation that FETÖ also infiltrated the Grand National Assembly of Turkey. This, of course, is a huge threat. Kılıçdaroğlu and the CHP team and certain members of the military are proponents of this new allegation, and it is another version of trying to curb the national will, just like coup plotters and junta supporters did in the past. Every legislation passed by the Turkish parliament, whether you like it or not, whether you agree with it or not, is the honor of the entire parliament, is the honor of the entire body of members of parliament, and that needs to be respected. Kılıçdaroğlu and his followers are attacking national will, and they are trampling on their own honor. In order to purge FETÖ affiliates from the judiciary, we have been engaged in efforts, and they are trying to undermine these efforts, and everyone who tries to do this, in effect, are actually FETÖ affiliates, because unless we had engaged in the struggle in the judiciary after the 17th and 25th of December coup attempt, then we would not have been able to stop the 15th of July coup attempt. FETÖ affiliates come in many guises, and they even use the guise of being a CHP member, and it is quite evident that purging these people from the state apparatus was no small feat indeed. For the last 10 years, despite CHP, we have been engaged in this struggle. If we hadn't done this, then FETÖ would be powerful enough to occupy our country fully. Now, after we initiated the struggle against FETÖ, we did not take a step back. We raised the bar every single day. And FETÖ risked their 50 years of legacy on the 15th of July, and the reason for that coup attempt was our determination, and it was nothing else. At every occasion, at every opportunity, we frustrated their plans and we curbed their efforts. The reason why this struggle was rather slow was because we wanted to respect the rule of law at every step that we took. And some of these people are in the United States of America, some in Germany, some in France, in Belgium, in certain countries of Africa. These people are spread all throughout the world. He himself says that they are present in 160 countries in the world. The ringleader of FETÖ said this: 160 countries in the world. This is how they worked. This is how they infiltrated all across the globe. So what do? We are pursuing them in 160 countries around the globe, and we talk to the leaders of these countries, and we ask these people to be extradited, and we have received many from Pakistan also. That is no longer a problem for us. We have cleansed Pakistan of these FETÖ affiliates. If 15th of July had not been orchestrated, we were going to purge FETÖ affiliates anyway. We were going to expedite this process. The state of emergency actually made it possible for things to be executed in a much more practical fashion. Some people are still discussing 15th of July, what it was, what it wasn't, and some people still make out as if they cannot understand what happened on that night. They're actually a part of this organization. Bylock lists, HDS records, pictures from the night. They knew that these were in the hands of the judiciary, but just to confuse people, they are making these allegations, and I would say that they're a part of this as well. Actually, they're the ones who know how the judiciary is manipulated to do this. But in order to see these, you need eyes. In order to hear it, you need ears. And in order to speak the truth, you need a tongue and a clean heart and a conscience to do what is right. And unfortunately, God does not give these virtues to everyone. Without caring about what anyone says, we are going to execute this process, and we are going to take this struggle to the end. And their efforts will always be in vain. We will never be beset by their futile efforts to thwart our plans. Thanks to the support of our nation, and thanks to the support of Allah, this struggle will continue forever. Dear friends, yesterday's developments reminded Gezi incidents to us once again. At the Gezi Park in Taksim, under the guise or pretext of protecting trees or protecting the environment, certain incidents were started. All of a sudden, they got bigger, and they turned into a civilian insurgents against the state and against the nation. Now, let us remember once again what went before.
Kapitalizmin sinir merkezinde gerçekleşen bu eylemler tüm dünyaya yayıldı.
Bize şimdi ders vermeye gayret edenler acaba Amerika'daki Wall Street olaylarını nereye koyacaklar?
İlk bakışta hiyerarşisiz, örgütsüz ve özgür bir imaj çizen Occupy eylemleri nedense finans çevrelerini hiç rahatsız etmemiş, tersine Soros gibi dünya düzeninin belirleyici isimleri destek dahi vermişti. Sanki laboratuvar ortamında üretilen bir silah vardı artık. Her şey hazırdı. Kurşun namluya sürülmüş ve nişan alınmıştı. Hedefte önce Türkiye, sonra Brezilya olacaktı. Önce 27 Mayıs günü 5 ağacın yerinden sökülmesini engellemek isteyen bir çevreci grup vardı. Ertesi gün BDP milletvekili Sırrı Süreyya Önder'in Gezi Parkı'na gelip iş makinelerinin önüne geçmesiyle Gezi başlamış oldu.
Ben kepçenin altında bekleyeceğim. Burada. Hadi ben burada.
Eylemler CHP'nin gecikmeden verdiği destekle artık başka bir boyuta geçmişti.
Arkadaşlarımız, bütün milletvekillerimiz Taksim'de olacaklar.
Bu genel başkan ve bu yönetimin elinde CHP irili ufaklı illegal terör örgütlerinin sığınağı bir parti konumuna düşürülmüş, tarihin en rezil günlerini yaşar hale gelmiştir.
Daha sonra özellikle CHP, Gezi'nin siyasi rantını sahiplenmek için yoğun bir gayret gösterecekti.
Bizim Vekil bak, vekilimiz. Cumhuriyet Halk Partisi milletvekili.
Eylemcilerin çadırlarının yakılmasıyla bir anda toplumun dikkati o yöne çekildi. Sanki eylemlere çekinceyle yaklaşan insanları etkilemek, sönmeye yüz tutan ateşi harlamak ister gibi sert bir müdahale gerçekleştirdi polis. Buna bir türlü anlam veremeyen kamuoyuysa sebebini çok sonra, yani Türkiye FETÖ gerçeğiyle tanışınca anlayacaktı. İş yerleri yağmalanıyor, belediye otobüsleri ateşe veriliyordu.
Esnafın camını, çerçevesini indirenler ne adına indiriyor? Soruyor. Ne adına indiriyor? Bunun hukukla bir alakası var mı? Bunun demokrasiyle bir alakası var mı? Hak mücadelesiyle bir alakası var mı? Kim ödeyecek şimdi onların paralarını? Onlar mı ödeyecekler? Tüy bitmemiş yetimin hakkı var mı? Tüy bitmemiş yetimin hakkı. Gene kalkacağız. Oraların camını, çerçevesini, evet, bu hükümet yapacak.
Başrolündeki simalar da elbette buna uygun olacaktı. İnsanların evlerine konuk olan oyuncular bir anda kanaat önderi olmuş, eylemlerde ön saflarda yerlerini almışlardı. Gezi'nin aslında ne için gerçekleştiğini ise onlardan biri ifade etti. Mesele sadece Gezi Parkı değil arkadaş, sen hala anlamadın.
Yükselen bu tepkinin içeriğinin başta 3. köprü, 3. havalimanı, Kanal İstanbul, A3, HES'ler olmak üzere kaldırılması istenleri iktidar sahiplerine iletmek istiyoruz.
O çocuklar bizim çocuklarımız. Onlar yeşile, ağaca, doğaya sahip çıkıyorlar.
Ne plebisit, ne referandum, ne yargı kararı orayı park olmaktan alıkoyamaz.
Yani bitmez ya. O gitmeden bitmeyecek ya bence. Ya böyle bir fikir var benim kafamda. Hiçbir fikrim yok.
Amerikan medyası, İngiliz medyası, Almanya'daki sokak olaylarını hiç görmeyen Alman medyası 7/24 Gezi Parkı'ndaydı. En azimlileri de 24 saat Gezi'den canlı yayın yapan CNN olarak göze çarpıyordu. Gezi Parkı'nda eylemcilerin her türlü ihtiyacını karşılayan iş adamları ve sahip oldukları otellerse devrim sloganları atan marjinal sol grupların kim bilir kaçıncı tezatlarıydı.
Bu mücadeleyi veren çocuklara elimizden geldiği kadar doktor, avukat, göz altındakini çıkartmak, hastanedekine yardım etmek, besin takviyesi yapmak, yanında olduğumuzu hissettirmek yönünde elimizden gelenin fazlasını yapmaya gayret ediyoruz.
Ben oraya sivil bir yurttaş olarak gidiyorum. Eylem yapanlara destek vermek için.
Böyle bir manzara karşısında temsil ettiği halkın iradesinden taviz vermeyen Başbakan Erdoğan, Nazlıçeşme mitingiyle halk desteğinin aslında ne olduğunu uluslararası kamuoyuna gösterdi.
Türkiye fotoğrafı görmek isteyen varsa uluslararası medyaya rağmen görmek isteyen varsa fotoğraf burada. Hadi bakalım BBC bunu da gizle. CNN bunu da gizle. Devlete maliyeti şu an itibariyle 100 trilyonu aşmış vaziyette. Hani ya siz fakir fukaradan, garip kurabadan yanaydınız? Sizi rahatsız eden neydi ya?
Gezi kalkışması sırasında İstanbul borsasında işlem gören şirketler 3 ayda 164 milyar lira değer kaybederken yabancı yatırımcılar da 8 milyar dolarlık çıkış yaptılar. Gezi olayları öncesinde %6.13'e kadar gerileyen yıllık enflasyon sonraki 3 ayda %8.88'e kadar yükselirken işsizlik oranı da arttı. Gezi kalkışmasının borsadan bankacılık sistemine, turizmden enflasyona kadar tüm etkileriyle değerlendirildiğinde Türk ekonomisine maliyeti 200 milyar lirayı aştı.
Türkiye kaybederken bu eylemlerden dolayı başkaları kazandı. Değerli kardeşlerim, kim? Faiz lobisi kazandı. Bazı uluslararası sermaye çevreleri kazandı.
Türkiye ise daha sonraki yıllarda yaşayacağı küresel müdahalelerin ilkini atlatmış, halkının iradesine sahip çıkan bir liderin arkasında duracağını dünyaya deklare etmişti.
Değerli kardeşlerim,
Dear friends,
şimdi
now
her şeyi ekranda izlediniz.
everything was clear enough on the screens.
Hafıza tazelemesi.
This was something that we wanted to share with you to refresh our memories. Gezi incidents were actually just like military coups or military memorandums or attacks of terrorist organizations or the 17th and 25th of December and 15th of July coup attempts of FETÖ. These incidents are heinous attacks against our government, against our nation.
Bay Kemal,
Mr. Kemal,
zannediyorum dünkü konuşmasıydı.
well, yes, I think yesterday he talked about bright youngsters when he was talking about the Gezi incidents. He himself is implicated. He himself is fooled, and the youngsters that he's talking about are deceived youngsters. These deceived youngsters were given the label of environmentalist, and as such, well, a government that planted millions of trees was blamed, and the government was accused of removing a few trees from the park, and I only wish them ill. Since I became the mayor, I did my best to plant trees in Istanbul, grown-up trees in Istanbul, from the curbs to many other areas in the city. Alhamdulillah, we made Istanbul green. It was us. 12 trees were removed from one place and transferred to another place, and this
oyuncağı durumunda olan bir kişi,
someone who was a puppet of the PKK terrorist organization was there to play his part, and unfortunately young people went there as well, and this process was initiated, orchestrated. Did Mr. Kemal make the call? Yes, he did. Did they call people to the park? Yes, they did. For 3 months approximately in Istanbul mainly, but in many large cities in Turkey as well, the squares and the streets were occupied and burned, and this incident cannot be condoned in any way and cannot be seen as innocent in any way. When we look at the balance sheet of the Gezi incidents, you see the gravity of the vandalism that actually took place. Dear friends, and also spectators watching us in front of their TV sets, it is imperative that you know who is who. Now, these people, or this was not an innocent uprising. These people behind the scenes were supported by Soros-like certain quarters to cause uprisings in certain countries. There are certain types who orchestrate these efforts, and there's the Turkey leg. He was in prison, the Turkey leg of that, and thanks to a maneuver yesterday he was acquitted. They tried to acquit him yesterday, and together with them other people were implicated as well. During all of these incidents, 46 public buildings, 231 police vehicles and 44 ambulances were damaged and rendered unusable. 326 workplaces and 201 vehicles were damaged and pillaged, and 80 public buses and 85 bus stops were actually burned. In addition to these material damages, 697 police officers were wounded and 1 police officer was martyred. The total cost of Gezi incidents for Turkey stands at 1.4 billion US dollars. The indirect cost is actually calculated at hundreds of billions of dollars. Interest rates for the very first time went up with Gezi incidents, and from 4.6 they went all the way up to 13% because of them. And unemployment also reached double digits. Inflation went up around the same time as well. I was the Prime Minister at the time, and my working office at Dolmabahçe Palace was unfortunately also targeted. Some people tried to climb up to the roofs, and by using dozer machines, dozer vehicles, yes, in front of our working office, from Bezmialem Valide Sultan Mosque in Beşiktaş as well, they opened canals. And just like the urban warfare and trenches dug up by terrorists in southeast, they tried to do this in Beşiktaş, in Bezmialem Valide Sultan Mosque to Beşiktaş. They tried to open up tunnels. What was there? There was the Prime Minister's office within Dolmabahçe Palace, and in the adjacent building I had my working office, and I was working in that office, and this was done to us. Who are these people? These people are the so-called bright youngsters. I do not recognize such bright youngsters. These people were fooled because of you. You, yourselves, for long years, you put up posters of terrorists on the facade of Atatürk Cultural Center. Now you claim to be supporting Atatürk. This building, it was called Atatürk Cultural Center, and on the facade there were posters of terrorists. These posters, the posters of these terrorists, who put them up on the facade? Who put these posters on the statue at the square in Taksim? Mr. Kemal, it was you and your people who did this. You did all of this. If these people are your bright youngsters, then we're in for big problems. We don't need enlightened youngsters. What we need is we need youngsters who will lay down their lives for this country, for this nation. And do you remember the demands that they put forth for these incidents to come to an end? They wanted the Istanbul airport project and other large projects, highway, bridge, dam and canal investments to be stopped immediately. And foreign media, in an unprecedented way, broadcast these events for months on end. And many fake news were actually published by media outlets that supported the Gezi incidents. During this time at the Taksim Square, when you look at people who showed up, you actually realize who is behind all of this. It leaves no doubt as to who orchestrated these incidents. Whoever sees these incidents as an incident environmental protest are actually fooled or actually engaged in treason against this country. The Gezi incidents try to divide our nation, but just like any other attack, we joined our forces with our nation and we stamped out this effort. What they could not succeed during Gezi, they tried to repeat on the 17th and 25th of December. We also frustrated their efforts, and then they were engaged in urban warfare to divide this nation, and thanks to the heroic efforts of our servicemen, we buried the terrorists in the holes that they dug up. 15th of July coup attempt was actually a continuation in the same chain of events, but luckily we were able to frustrate their efforts thanks to the support of our nation. And the struggle that we are engaged in Syria right now is a continuation of this process. From Gezi all the way to Syria, we were targeted by a series of attacks. And it is the integrity of our country, the unity of our nation, fraternity of our nation that is under attack here. Of course, we respect the rulings of the judiciary, but as far as we're concerned, as far as our nation is concerned, our judgment regarding the Gezi incidents and the orchestrators of these incidents is clear. Everyone should rest assured, just like every other case in Turkey, we will also follow up on this until the very end, and we will do our best so that justice is served, and until our last breath we will continue the struggle. Dear brothers, lately we are confronted with a campaign that is aimed at making us lose time. This is a concerted effort, and just like many times before, this campaign is unfortunately spearheaded by the Republican People's Party. On our agenda, there are many burning issues such as regional developments and the economy. It's not just our border security, but at the same time, the safety and security and welfare of our 83 million citizens. That's why we need to be in Syria, and that's why we are engaged in this heroic battle in Syria. And we are being provoked, and we do whatever it takes to take a stance in Syria. If our counterparts, interlocutors, do not answer our needs in the region, then we will make do with our own means. And we have said this to them repeatedly. In Idlib, the regime needs to end its belligerence and retract to the Sochi memorandum borders. These are our last warnings. In Turkey, in Russia, and in the field, we have carried out many meetings, and unfortunately, we have not reached the result that we wanted. Yes, these talks are underway, will continue to take place, but it is quite evident that on the table we're not where we want to be. Turkey, regarding Idlib, has made all sorts of preparations to execute its operational plans. Just like in all operations regarding this, we say we can show up anytime. In other words, to put it more clearly, the Idlib operation is now a matter of time. Turkey's determination regarding this is not understood by the regime, and we are not going to leave Idlib to them, nor to those who encourage the regime. Now, on Saturday, I also talked about this with President Trump, and we also shared these points with him. The developments in the region will put a huge burden on Turkey, and we are not going to undertake this responsibility at any cost. We are going to make sure that Idlib is safe for Turkey and for the peoples of the region. Similarly, in Libya, we will continue to side with the Tripoli administration, which is the legitimate government of the country. And now that our troops are in Libya, the coup plotter Haftar's advancement came to a halt. And unless we get an equitable, a fair result, from international talks, and right now the legitimate government has left the table, and this is a positive decision that we support, that we condone, because there are certain orchestrations, there are certain mishaps, and the Tripoli administration must be supported so that they can control the entire country. In the Mediterranean, thanks to our agreement with Libya, the equilibrium was restruck in favor of Turkey. We are strengthening these ties. And regarding Libya, the European Union has no mandate to make any decisions, and I want to also say this. The European Union is trying to assume responsibility in all of this. They are single-handedly doing this. But based on what? Based on what mandate? Who gives them that authority? They have no such authority regarding land nor sea, but Turkey's position is different. And our determination regarding this and the status that we have announced in the Mediterranean is now being accepted by Greece and other countries who have a stake in the region. On the other hand, with President Trump, we have set a goal to reach $100 billion in terms of trade, and we have decided to uphold this target and not let it be impacted by problems between the two countries. And this commercial cooperation with the US will help Turkey achieve a higher technological initiative. Now, dear friends, let us come to economy. Some people are still trying to attack us through economy, but everything is so clear and so evident. But these people are still trying to use economy as a weapon against us. Economy has always been very important for us, has always ranked so high on our agenda, regardless of what is going on elsewhere. We have always strived to strengthen the dynamics of economy. In the last year and a half, we have been engaged in a historic battle in terms of economy. This struggle is as important as cross-border operations for us. As is known, in August 2018, we were targeted by one of the most heinous economic attacks in the world. These attacks continued under different guises in the months that followed, but thanks to the precautions that we took, we frustrated these plans and we minimized the damage that our country incurred as a result. When you look at economic indicators, actually we are now on the level of pre-August 2018, and actually in many areas we are much better than that. The devil's triangle of interest rates, FX and inflation was used against us, and thankfully once again we have frustrated their plans. This picture has actually changed people's perception about the Turkish economy, including the leading financial institutions in the world. Growth estimates for Turkey are being revised continuously. Inflation and interest rates are being brought down. We are determined about that. We are going to build on our current practices and activate new measures if needs be. The central bank has reduced the policy interest rate that went all the way up to 24%, down to 11.25%. And this actually is even lower than August 2018. At one point, people were talking about 40% of interest rates when it came to market interest rates, and now we are talking about 8 to 10% in terms of market interest rates. In May 2013, at the time of Gezi incidents, we are now actually below that, and the Gezi supporters should know this well. The trust we have achieved in economy has also reduced public spending costs. Last week there was a tender for public loans, and bonds were issued with a low cost, and all USD denominated bonds are now denominated in euro, and that has reduced costs as well. In January, trust index went up, and one of the most important indicators of growth, purchasing managers index, after a long time surpassed the threshold value of 50. Our industrial output in 2019, in December 2019, went up by 8.6%, and as such broke a record. Value-added production, export, and employment propelled growth model will be executed with great determination. All this data tells us that 2019 will be a year of positive growth. Last year, for the very first time, we had a current account surplus for the first time. Some people alleged that Turkey would get smaller, that Turkey would be demolished, and as such, we gave them the greatest answer by with this surplus and our growth rate. And inshallah, in 2020, we will surpass 5% growth, which is our target, and we are going to surprise everyone, and we are going to grow much higher than anticipated. Yes, as you can see, costs are going down, and there's more confidence in the private sector, and our citizens are more hopeful about the future. Every positive step in economy should be reflected well on the private sector as well as our citizens and their day-to-day lives. And for that, we have also taken the necessary steps about fees and commissions charged by banks. As you know, we have taken the necessary steps. Now, as a result of their services, banks charge certain fees and commissions, and we have introduced a standard for that. From commercial customers, fees and commissions, there were 4,400, and now they have been reduced to 51. In financial consumers, i.e. our citizens, from 20 to 16. As such, merchants, industrialists, citizens are no longer going to pay these fees and charges to open an account or to benefit from a loan or to close their debts. There will be no such unannounced and surprise fees. Everyone will know beforehand what they're going to pay for what service. Now, our citizens send pocket money to their kids, 300, 500 lira, and from now on, a standard fee will apply from 1 lira to 5 lira. In commercial loans, early payment commission in 2 years was reduced to 1%. In those that are longer than 2 years, we reduced it to 2%, down from 10%. And cash advance commissions for credit cards are now limited at 1%. As per our calculations, after these arrangements, 30 billion lira will remain in the pockets of our business people and in the pockets of our citizens. I also believe that our banks will increase their service quality and make up for the reduction in the income that they generate from these areas. And I do hope that this is an auspicious step for our nation. In economy, hopefully we will be sharing good news with you in the upcoming period. We will always put a special emphasis on this. Dear friends, So many good things are happening in Turkey, but some people, just to upset our nation, just to undermine the morale of our people, are saying that Turkey is importing hay. They are repeating these lies without any shame. I could use a strong word here, but it wouldn't befit this rostrum. What do they say? Well, Turkey actually is a net exporter when it comes to hay and animal feed, and they're saying that Turkey imports hay from Switzerland. But these people cannot separate wheat from chaff, and they do not even understand what is written on the papers that are put in front of them. What we import from the Switzerland for 6,500 per 32 kilo, and that's 200 lira per kilo, that is not hay, that's a grain husk that we actually import. This special product is used as a feed, for insects that are used against vectors. That's it looks like hay, but it is not hay. A kilo of hay is 1 lira. You don't need to be an expert in calculations. All you need is good common sense. By looking at the price, one would expect him to realize that what is important was not hay. But these people are blinded by their animosity, and their hearts are blackened by their animosity. Their lives are full of lies, and they're even trying to use something mundane as hay to attack us. And actually, when we see such lack of common sense, we understand very well how the National Security Institute went bankrupt under the leadership of this particular gentleman. I have documents for all of this, Mr. Kemal. Well, the receipts, everything, I can show you all of these documents. At what price this product comes to Turkey, and so on and so forth. But Mr. Kemal, it doesn't say hay on the consignment bills. Since we were established, we served our nation with our services, with our success, with the things that we have accomplished, and we are doing the same right now. And on Sunday, if you want, we will be in Izmir. There's going to be an opening ceremony there. You are an MP for Izmir, if I'm not mistaken. Let me invite you to that opening ceremony. You can come. That would be for the best. I would very much want you to experience this excitement in Izmir. On Sunday, we are together, right? Now, another accomplishment. I'd like to call out to the citizens of Ankara and everyone else living in our country. Let's take a look at the screen. Tomorrow, hopefully, we will be inaugurating this National Library inside the presidential complex here in Ankara. How do you like it? There will be refreshments, not just for tomorrow. Refreshments and snacks will be provided at this library, and it will operate on a 24/7 basis for our youngsters. They will come here, revise here, study here. There will be refreshments free of charge, snacks, refreshments free of charge for our nation. This state is now serving the nation, and these snacks and refreshments will be free of charge. From everyone
büyük ve zengin kütüphaneler,
Large
medeniyetlerin
libraries
alameti
are trademarks of
farikalarındandır.
civilizations.
Ülkemize
And
mimarisi yanında kitap ve hizmet
we are very
zenginliğiyle
happy to be
Cumhuriyet döneminin en büyük
inaugurating
kütüphanesini
the largest
kazandırmış
library of the
olmalı,
Republic
memnuniyetle
that will serve our nation.
Ve 5 milyon
And
ciltlik
5 million volumes,
İnşallah,
inshallah, will be
ve bunlar aynı zamanda
displayed at this
elektronik
library,
ortamda da
and
kayda geçiyor.
these books will be also rendered
Bu arada
electronic
bilindiği
as
gibi
well. And also,
Antarktika'ya
as you know,
gerçekleştirdiğimiz
we have
4. bilim seferi heyetimiz yerlerine ulaştı.
made sure that the fourth
Heyette yer alan
scientific
24 bilim
delegation is now in
yaklaşık bir ay sürecek
Antarctica.
seferleri boyunca
24 scientists
15 farklı
will be
bilimsel
carrying out an
çalışma
expedition in Antarctica for 1 month, and they will conduct 15 different scientific studies. We will be cooperating with the UK, and hopefully we will have a fixed space in Antarctica, a designated area for Turkey. Last year we established a temporary scientific base, and we are hoping to turn it into a permanent base, and this delegation will complete these efforts. And once we established our permanent base in Antarctica, the Turkish flag will be displayed permanently there. I hope and pray that these efforts in Antarctica are auspicious for our nation. Let me share another good news with you. We have no shortage of good news, as you see. And that has to do with our drilling vessels. As you know, we have 2 drilling vessels, and we have 2 seismic exploration vessels. And now, Fatih, after Fatih and Yavuz, we have purchased a 3rd drilling vessel. And this is a 6th generation ultra drilling vessel that can go down 11,400 meters deep. In March, this vessel will come to Turkey, and after the development and testing procedures, by the end of this year, we are hoping that this vessel will start its drilling activities. Before I conclude my remarks, I would like to introduce 5 mayors who have decided to join AK Party. Let me now introduce them to you. Now, I will invite them one by one to the stage, but let me announce their names from here. Afyon Bolvadin Mayor Fatih Kayacan. Bilecik Pazaryeri Mayor Zekiye Tekin. Bilecik Osmaneli Mayor Münir Şahin. Sakarya Pamukova Mayor İbrahim Güven Övün. Siirt Baykan Veysel Karani Mayor Murat Akgün are all welcome in our party. Once again, I greet you all with my deepest regards. Now, one by one, we are going to announce their names, and they will join us on the stage, and there will be a photo opportunity as well.
Genel Başkanımız, Sayın Cumhurbaşkanımıza konuşmalarından dolayı çok teşekkür ediyorum. Şimdi de Sayın Cumhurbaşkanımızın açıkladığı belediye başkanlarımızı tek tek davet edeceğiz ve bölge il milletvekillerimizi, yerel yönetimlerden sorumlu genel başkan yardımcımızı da Cumhurbaşkanımızın yanına sırasıyla davet etmek istiyorum. Afyonkarahisar Bolvadin Belediye Başkanı Sayın Fatih Kayacan, milletvekillerimiz, il başkanımız ve genel başkan yardımcımızı da Sayın Cumhurbaşkanımızın yanına davet ediyorum. Buyurun.